Happy Monday, guys. Are you ready for some fabrication fun? All right, guys, welcome back. For those of you who don't know or haven't been following along, I am solid axle swapping my 2010 Toyota FJ Cruiser. And as part of that, I am building this new cross member. I've been working on this now for several days. It's been a little challenging here and there, but it's turning out pretty well, I think. In the last video, some of you expressed some concern about the strength of the 3/8 plate and going up and down. Well, today I'm going to add some beef to this plate so that it doesn't flex, and it'll support the transmission and the transfer case just fine, I think. This is 3/16 wall, 1.5 by 1.5 square tubing, which I am going to have to cut down. I'm going to shave off the bottom with the plasma cutter and then weld it flat to the plate, and it'll be a nice C channel at that point. So it'll provide a ton of rigidity to this plate and make it all good. And then finally, I'm going to get to this rear tail housing mount for the Atlas Transfer Case from TMR. I know that I've been promising to have this thing done for a while now, but today I think it's really going to happen. So here's that 3/16 wall, 1.5 by 1.5 square tube. It's got this seam in there, as you can see right here. Right here, there's a weld that goes all the way down the length of the tube. And so in creating these channels, I'm going to cut out that side of the tubing that has the seam. I don't know if that'll actually make any difference, but it seems like a good idea. Now, of course, I would have preferred to buy some channel that would have been the right dimension, but they didn't have anything that was going to be 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches in this thickness, and so that's why I'm cutting down this square tubing. If you're in the market for a plasma cutter, I have really been enjoying this Prime Weld Cut 60. It's a lot of bang for the buck. It seems to be doing a really great job. And it works pretty well with my Harbor Freight 29-gallon air compressor. I'm going to throw in some Steel It weldable paint where the channel is going, so when moisture gets in there, this will prevent rusting. Alright, so here's the plan for the reinforcement. I'm going to have a bar going across there, one across there, and then one running from the rear to the front. So I'll also have to do a little cutout right here for the bottom of the Atlas Transfer Case. But yeah, that's about how it's going to look. I'll start welding it up and take it nice and slow because heat is steel's worst enemy, apparently. Well guys, I'm not sure that I'm having fun anymore. I made a very significant error. I got a little too excited with the welder, and I did go slow. I just did too much, I think. I don't know. So yeah, I welded all the way across. I guess I should have stitch welded instead, stitch welded it instead rather than trying to go all the way across. So basically the whole thing is kind of smiling now, like that. And of course that makes these holes not line up anymore with my frame brackets. Anyways, so I cut some relief cuts here and it got a lot better, and then welded them up. I'm gonna have to cut some more relief cuts and weld them up and try to get this thing straightened back out. So yeah, I don't want to waste $300 worth of steel and a week's worth of work. If worst case scenario, I'll cut this whole thing off. Oh my gosh, jeez. And then I'm going to C-clamp this down to correct for the bend. Now it's actually bent in the wrong direction, or the other direction, a little bit, which is good. So now I'll just weld up these cracks, and hopefully it will flex it and hold it the right way. All right, there it is. Not ideal, but yeah, it's still gonna do its job. And I test fit it back under the vehicle, and it worked. So we're back in business, back to having fun, I hope. So on to the next one going across, and I'm going to stitch weld that, not try to do a constant weld, because obviously that was stupid. Let's see if I can weld this one without screwing it up. I'm going to only weld maybe an inch or so every 6 inches. All right, there we go. All welded up. That one didn't warp at all. Just kidding. Those are just my tacks. You knew that. Okay, much more moderate approach this time. So it doesn't look like it warped, and that's great. This is the cutout for the Atlas. Otherwise it wouldn't fit in there. So that little section there still adds strength because it's a piece of straight metal going across, and it still has a little bit of square to it. So should be strong enough. Next I'm just going to run a piece from here to the front just to give it some strength in the other direction, and then that portion will be done. All right guys, well, it's the next day. Last night I managed to get this all welded up and this welded in here, and it's pretty sturdy now, definitely more rigid than it was before, so it should be just fine at supporting the transmission and the Atlas. So I'm just going to go underneath, get this thing bolted up, and then I can get that Atlas support on there. All right, there it is, guys. Got the transmission all bolted up. Everything's everything's in place. Plenty of room for the Atlas right here. My little cutout there. Hopefully you can see that there. And plenty of clearance there between. So that's really great. So next, that TMR Atlas support, it just goes from here up to the tail housing of the Atlas. It just wraps around here. So the way this support works is pretty simple. Just got this tube here and a bolt that goes through that. Just like that. Actually, I want to put this bushing on here first. So then the bolt goes through here, and there's these tabs. And then that just goes in that tube like that. And then this other bushing will go on here like that. And then this tab is going to come up here just like that. And a nut goes on there. And then this just gets welded on to this tubing right here. And then the Atlas is right in here. And that's the whole support. Pretty simple, right? Here's what it looks like on the Atlas. And here's the bracket that it mounts to. Now obviously the TMR mount is an aftermarket product for an aftermarket transfer case. And so it's meant for customization. In some applications, people have to cut this off to make it shorter. And in my case, I'm going to have to build a little stand here so that this can get all the way up to the bottom of the bracket. Because I know I don't have to cut this, the way that I'm going to do this is to weld this onto here first, and then hang it from the Atlas, and then find the gap that I have underneath, and then build that bracket. But first, I'm going to attach this to this. So here's the brace that is now fully assembled, but obviously not attached to the cross member. And this space here is 1 3/4 inches. So I need to put together 1 3/4 inch platform right here so that these can rest on it. And then we'll be all set. Okay, so I just whipped up this little 1 3/4 inch tall stand that now I can put this on top of. So I've got the bolt going through here, so I'll be able to weld these tabs to my stand without having them warp, because the bolt will hold them in place. And then we can stick it under the vehicle, and then the Atlas will be secure. Alright, there it is. Now I just need to go stick it under the vehicle and bolt it up, and we'll be done. There we go. Isn't it a thing of beauty? That support in the back really just adds a nice finished look to the Atlas, I think. Well, guys, it's a perfect evening outside my garage. I don't know if you can tell, but the temperature is perfect, perfectly blue sky, beautiful sunset. And inside my garage, it is also beautiful because that cross member is finally done, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. And more importantly, I get to move on to bigger and better and more fun things, particularly the axles. Those are coming in tomorrow, and I'm gonna get them under the FJ. I get to bring in the tires and the wheels that I feel like I haven't seen in a while, and get this thing really rolling. No pun intended. So I hope you had fun. It was a roller coaster ride for me this time. I thought maybe I had screwed up the whole thing and it was gonna be unredeemable, but it all worked out. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already, so I can bring you new content every Monday and Thursday, and we'll see you next time.